I'm Katherine Ross. I'm here live on the floor of the NYSE with Jim Cramer. Jim, what's on the top of your mind this morning?
Well, I think that the idea that there was a story floated in the Wall Street Journal about how the Chinese are saying that the president has delayed the tariffs is emblematic of what I have come to disdain about the reporting. I speak to both sides, obviously. Larry Kudlow was my partner for years. I know Peter Navarro from college. I think the distinguishing fact is we don't know and whether there's a deal. And I don't want to mislead our viewers into buying stocks because they think there is a deal. I have my own personal view about whether there should be a deal, and I've made that very clear. I also rebel against the idea that my view is a Republican or Democratic idea. My view has to do with studying this issue for a long time after the mills that my father worked for were shut because the Chinese targeted gift wrap. And that's what's informed my decision. Long before the president was involved in this issue, in a series of meetings 10 years ago with President Trump, I outlined my position. I did not know whether he was a Democrat or Republican. And I just want to caution people, look, I mean, if you want to trade off of every trade headline, you might be wrong. Now, that's different from Speaker Pelosi and the president about USMCA. And that's something that I've been close to the speaker about and do a lot of business in Mexico. And it's really important if you're a U.S. company post-Trump, let's say a Democrat wins, you may not be so quick to close your factory here and move to the South. One of the things that people have to recognize is globalization has been something that both Republicans and Democrats until President Trump agreed with. Globalization, to me, has been a travesty for our workers. And it goes hand in hand with what the late Alan Kruger used to talk about was the opiate problem in our country. So I find a little beleaguered, Catherine, that my views are regarded as being Trump, in the sense that my views are also Pelosi. But whatever, I mean, I think that everything's gotten so charged that it's important for people to not take action on every headline. That's what I'm thinking about.
So they shouldn't take action on every headline, but if the Wall Street Journal is correct and if the December 15th tariffs are off the table.
We can't necessarily believe that.
No, of course, and I completely agree with you that we have to wait until maybe we see a tweet from the president himself.
Right, or even after that. I think that, okay, well, let's just be empirical about it. The market was looking down, and then the Journal writes a story. What does the story say? The Chinese have said that the United States has tentatively agreed to a deal to delay the tariffs. Okay, so Wall Street Journal, through the Chinese, talking to the U.S., but not Lighthizer, not the president, have agreed to a deal. So Apple was down a bunch. Then Apple flies up. I confirm the story. I say, I believe the story's right. People buy Apple up $2. Then Apple goes down. People's fault or my fault? People's fault or my fault? Which is it?
I would say, as a journalist, I would always say it falls on your shoulders because you're the one that reported it.
Exactly. And I feel like I have to be more circumspect because, we're in an era where the politics are determining. I heard a report this morning about how the tariffs are killing us. I spent last week speaking to a series of retail CEOs, all of whom, by the way, represent probably around maybe 40% of the retail market, and they aren't killing us. But if you hated the president, you would say they're killing us. And what I'm struggling to do is try to say, okay, well, look, this is what the CEOs tell me, because the CEOs allowed me to say that Walmart was right at 90 and that Target was right at 90 and Costco is right at 200. I don't know. There's an objective, which is objective truth, but I am discouraged that somehow my views have become political fodder when what I'm really trying to say is, look, the Chinese are very much, and I've been saying this since the October speech of last year by Pence, maybe this is a new Cold War, and you have to prepare for it. And the Cold War was something that was recognized by General Marshall, Secretary of State Marshall, and President Truman, and these are not Republican or Democratic issues. The foreign policy, politics is left at the shore of the United States. That has long been the policy of the United States until recently. But I am struggling with trying to not report fake news, and I find it very discouraging right now.
I think my question for you, Jim, is based on everything that you've just said. How does the average retail investor know when they should trust a headline? Because they don't have the sources that we have.
They should not be trading on headlines.
But how do they know when it's news and not just a headline? Well, they shouldn't
be trading on it. They should be looking for really good companies. I mean, for instance, CVS is down big today. We like CVS very much, and it's going to be the subject of one of the things I'm going to talk about tomorrow on our conference call. And maybe CVS, that's your opportunity. Down big on, let's see, on a $7 number, they should earn $7 and the stock's at $71. I mean, that's what you should be thinking about. You shouldn't be thinking about whether CVS's inventory is going to be raised in price because of the tariffs. But there are a lot of people, particularly younger people, whom I think are trying to put stories in the framework of politics that are not. And I think that causes people, you don't want to tempt people to take the wrong action. You just don't want to do that.
Completely agree with you there.
Thank you.
Jim, I want to switch gears because I do want to talk about the Fed. We've got the Fed meeting tomorrow. We've got Jerome Powell taking the stage. What should investors be listening for to kind of feel out the rest of the year?
I mean, I did a piece for Real Money yesterday which just said, look, the two problems with this market are, will Jay Powell say, okay, listen, we're done with cutting, which would then cause a reaction of many of these political journalists that I'm talking about to say, look, we're done cutting. And then, of course, if the economy slows, he'll cut again. I mean, so the idea, the doctrinaire reportage may indeed produce a 1-2 punch of the Fed saying it's done cutting, unless the data turns otherwise, and that latter, unless the data turns otherwise, is dropped off. So then people sell the market down, and that may be your opportunity. But then again, remember, pick good stocks of good companies. There was a fellow, Dave Cody, was on. He has what's known as SPAC, but now it's going to be Vertiv, a company that does a lot of the guts of a data center. And Dave has taught many of us, look at the secular trend that the industry's in, and look how that company's doing within the secular trend. And that's another way to pick good stocks.
Our Real Money stock of the day today is Stich Fix after reported earnings after the bell last night. Jim, they announced that you can kind of, instead of just doing the boxes that they used to send that were pre-customized for you, now you can kind of pick what you want to get.
Yeah, they did direct to consumer. Katrina Lake, there's about a 43% short position in the company, and the company's profitable. It's got some good growth. It's obviously a way that people buy clothes. It's so hated, along with Revolve and Real, that I always find myself thinking, why are these companies so despised? Peloton's despised too, and Chewy's despised. I tend to look at these as always, are they going to be the next secular growth trend? And if they are, then it's like shorting Tesla at 20, or it's like shorting Netflix at 30. So I'm more open-minded. I like what Katrina Lake is doing. I had her on Mad Money. She's quite imposing. But there are other people who just say, you know what, this is just a flash in the pan. I think this quarter makes it one less likely a chance that it's just a flash in the pan. It's a good quarter.
It's interesting that you say that, because this morning when I was talking to my producer about the show, I was pointing out that, Nordstrom has Trunk Club, which is very similar.
Yes, although they don't emphasize it. They don't
at all.
No.
And then we've got Rent the Runway, which I personally subscribe to.
I think Rent the Runway is another way to be able to have non-landfill clothes that are inexpensive, as is Real. But I think there's a very cogent argument that was made by a CNBC investigative team that Real doesn't vet well enough. So Stich Fix, the argument there is, can it scale? There are such pros and cons, and things are so vociferous that you really have to believe in both the product and the numbers. And I think that I was with the CEO recently of Rent the Runway, and obviously she's a great proselytizer for a product. I believe in it. And I've spent my career believing when the skeptics have said forget about it, and it's not hurt me. So I continue to want to believe that Katrina Lake's numbers are sustainable. And I know there are a lot of people who do not think so. I think they are sustainable.
All right, Jim, thanks for joining us today. Now, Jim, we've got two things to promote, and that is, first of all, we got Bull Market Fantasy live around 10:45 a.m. this morning, which I'm excited about, especially because your Eagles won last night.
Right. I did get knocked out by a juggernaut. I got knocked out by someone who's like, I had a good quarter. I had good numbers nowhere near. But, that's neither here nor there. What does matter is we're going to try to help you, the people who are in their final class, but I'll also talk about just football in general.
And then Jim has his Action Alerts Plus members-only monthly call tomorrow morning around 11 a.m.
Yes, and I think there we'll be discussing how stocks get misvalued and what they mean. Now, here again, I'm watching CVS down a lot, and I'm going to leave here and do some work on that because that's the kind of thing that's happened over and over again, where there'll be a stock that breaks down and everyone will run for fear that this is the big move down. And it turns out it isn't, or there'll be situations where it'll big move down and you'll get a chance to buy something. So this is all about my theory that because there's such a lack of players, buyers and sellers, and such a perverse number of ETFs, stocks are being misvalued constantly. And that's the opportunity.
All right, guys, we are now heading over to our Action Alerts Plus Daily Rundown show over on actionalertsplus.com. I'm Katherine Ross, and we'll see you tomorrow.